Good morning and welcome to everyone. Happy Ohigan! It's Ohigan. The equinox has come, which this is one of those years where normally you expect it, but this time it was a pleasant surprise that it actually happened when it was supposed to. So we are very happy to see our faces, the faces of our friends live here in the Hondo, as well as our friends in streaming land. Thank you, tuning in, sharing, sorry, okay. If you are tuning in by streaming, on the Sunday Live page, there are links to the Shoshinge for chanting posted there. And I'm pretty sure I forgot to post the order of service, so it is not there. If you look, it's the wrong one. It's usually about the same pattern every time. So we will begin with the 3 homages that we chant, followed by our Shoshinge. Now we're going to have to do it differently as we have been through this pandemic-y time. We will use mind chanting instead of verbal chanting. So to avoid the excess internal and external breathing. So we'll chant in our mind. So you can follow along in the Shoshinge if you're here with us or at home. At home, chant your little hearts out so we can hear you from here. But if you're in the room together, we need to just do it in our mind. We will be accompanied by a Reverend Shelley and myself chanting aloud, so it'll be easier to do that way. So, Shin Shonin, the founder of our lineage, wrote the Shoshinge almost 800 years ago. And through it, it compresses his experiences and insights in Buddhism and the Pure Land in this pleasant poem we chant together. He is certainly here with us today. In the Shoshinge, we realize the principles that guide our lives. Shinran wanted us to know that our life is more than just a simple journey from cradle to grave, that we are part of a long, unbroken thread of life that extends infinitely into the past, and we're responsible to continue that thread into the future. While we are chanting, we will also offer incense, maybe with a little bit of a different twist too. We'd like to go by rows. So the first row, one by one, will get up, and then the second row, one by one, and keep some nice space between as you come toward the altar. It's a mindful walking meditation sort of feeling as opposed to getting her done. Just take your time, plenty of space. We've got all day. Just kidding. We usually finish in about an hour. So, okay. The incense offering is a cleansing of the mind and body before receiving the Dharma. The burning of incense symbolizes transcending selfishness. Incense comes in little particles, like little individuals, and then when it burns, it freely connects and interconnects with everything. Here on the altar is Amida Buddha, offering boundless wisdom and compassion for all of us. Please offer incense with an open heart and deep gratitude to all your teachers. Namaste.
Unam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. 異名無量寿如来南無不可思議光法蔵菩薩に寺財政自在応部省東県勝負浄土院国土人間自然幕本流無常修正願長法慶右大偶勢高校士唯士小樹十世名称文字法不法無量無変更無限無体公園の少女歓喜知恵子不断難知無償子小日が交渉人生一切群上無交渉本願用語少女語死心信行願人上等学章大涅槃必死滅道願成就如来勝義公修世唯世弥陀本願会往辱惑自群上会往生如来両実言老法一年喜愛心不乱本の特涅槃本性逆法さえ流領収侵入開一に聖主信仰上昇後異の水波無明湾本来心臓四分無上空心事心人天異名に幸福運無運無資源妙無湾逆心謙虚大狂気即合超税合悪臭一切全幕本部人門親如来偶勢願運言広大小芸者全人名踏んだりけリーダー部本元年部邪変教が学習上信行十字人に南中心が昔インド祭天地論芸中華自治域思考層現代小構成小異妙如来本税大き釈迦如来ヨガ戦一種の如来天竺流樹大事修道生執の財派無権先生大乗無情法召喚議事昭和学賢治南行六六新行異行四行楽億年二打部本願自年即自流上唯の上昇如来を応報大悲偶勢音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下本如来永州他天神寺後世の超大誓願こういう本願力栄光医療群上小維心金入空毒大崩壊筆脈入大永州州特使蓮華造世界即小信用法小心有本の人間人図入賞自音自用芸本自動願両天使情報乱象法さらい三蔵流子十条教本性専業気楽法天神菩薩音中芸法領因果見世願大芸霊光有他力少女死因有心人惑前本部新人法承知承知即涅槃一心無量根陽道小宇宙上開復慶同社継承論難症唯妙浄土活入万全自力変言宗円満特合感染症三風三心慶音音増魔法明道義因 異所造悪地偶税思案妖怪称名化全道六名無所意公愛上三両逆悪公明明後家二年海入本願大地界幼者小樹混合心狂気一年総合両位大東逆三人即所法所市上楽現鎮公開一大教返帰安養可二祭先祖終身反戦人法慶二道小弁流極十悪人唯勝負我薬剤非正集中煩悩証言水不見大義無権上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書本編集戦弱本願具惑性現代生寺林伝芸形式異常異常死即入弱上無意楽一心寺に納入仏教大修士と上妻無縁極辱悪王族自主上心唯過心し丈夫のこの方は今に自己をへたまえり方針の小売りひわもな悪せのも妙を照らすなり安にしくどくよの聖祭のもない心お嬢はアマンラブナマ
So what I would like to invite the children, parents if they want to go too, would like to go outside the grammar school with myself.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The reading today is from the Sona Sutra. Once the Buddha had a student named Sona. He was the son of a wealthy businessman who liked to listen to Veena music and to play the instrument himself. He had been raised in wealth and luxury, so his skin was very delicate and soft. It was even said that he had peach fuzz on the soles of his feet. The rumor was so strong that Sona was once brought before King Bimbisara, who wanted to see the unusual feat he had heard so much about. Sona lived near the Vulture's Peak in Rajagaha, where the Buddha sometimes stayed during the rains retreat. One day, Sona went to the Vulture's Peak Hermitage to listen to the Buddha's teaching. It was about enlightenment, the happiness we can experience when we are not attached to wanting and desire. Sona aspired to have this experience of transcendent happiness, so he asked to be ordained in the order and live in a monastery. After joining, he was taught to be constantly mindful, even when walking. Sona was very enthusiastic. Every day he walked back and forth in meditation at the monastery, until one day his feet developed blisters. But he didn't stop. He kept going, wanting to get enlightened. Then his delicate feet began to bleed. Even after all his arduous efforts, Sona did not experience happiness, just pain and disappointment. He didn't feel transformed. Just as before, cravings for worldly things still came to mind. It is no use, Sona said to himself. I have tried so very hard, but still have not achieved what I wish for. It is better for me to give up and return to householder life and enjoy the happiness of performing music for charity. The Buddha could hear what Sona was thinking, and he went to see Sona. Sona, he said, I have heard that you are not getting good results from your mindfulness practice and want to return to the householder life. What if we examine why you did not get good results together. If that goes well, would you stay on here and try again? Yes, I would, dear teacher, replied Sona. Sona, you were a musician and you used to play the veena. It's like a guitar. Tell me, did you produce good music when the guitar string was well tuned, neither too tight nor too loose, perfectly on pitch? Yeah, I was able to produce good music, teacher, replied Sona. What happened when the veena strings were too tightly wound up? I could not produce good music, and the strings might break, he said. What happened when the strings were too slack? I could not produce any music at all, teacher, replied Sona. Sona, do you now see why you did not experience the happiness of letting go all wanting and desire? You have been straining too hard in your practice. Apply yourself in a relaxed and supple way, but without being slack. Practice in a middle way. Try it again, and you will experience a good result. The Buddha took his leave. Sona now understood. He stayed on in the monastery as a student and followed the practice of mindfulness in a relaxed and supple way, without straining or excess. Eventually, and in good time, he reached enlightenment. We will now have a few minutes of meditation accompanied by music.
Well, good morning. So wonderful to be with you all today. And just relaxing and sharing in this time of year that is the balance reminder that we all need. Let me see. Pulling up my Dharma talk. Okay. We are very thankful to everyone who sustains this temple through these difficult times. It does take quite a few people to help in many ways, from mowing the lawns to cleaning the temple to becoming assistant priests and helping with everything that needs to be helped, the live streaming, the sound, learning how to operate the temple, ringing the bell and incense and all kinds of things. To dana, to giving dana, any kind of dana, your time, your funds, participating in Dharma book group, in Golden Light meditation, in Moon Rabbit Cafe. There's so many things that you can do to be part of the Sangha, which is very worthwhile as well as helpful. So we call this a dana practice. So it's a selfless giving, and it's very beneficial for everyone. So we very much appreciate everything that you do. You might have seen the special, we call it a norin, the special purple banner on the outside of the temple this morning. That signifies an important Shin Buddhist holiday. And Jodo Shinshu Buddhists celebrate Ohigan, or the other shore, at the equinoxes. So the last time we celebrated was in March. I can't believe it's already fall equinox. It's incredible. So it is a wonderful balance between daytime and nighttime. It's a natural balance, the middle of two extremes. For Buddhists in particular, it's a natural reminder of the balance that we try to cultivate in our lives. If we've gone off course in the last 6 months, since the last Ohigan in March, and it's perfectly understandable, as many of us have, including myself, we can always correct and try to regain that middle way course in our life, a sense of middle going forward. Reverend Matthew and I took a little trip on Monday, escaping the smoke. That was the impetus to escape the smoke. And we really noticed the changing of the season already. Driving through the little town of Austin, we saw the aspens turning gold and yellow, and we're like, oh, yeah, it is that time of year. So you can tell that something is up. Change is always occurring, but sometimes it's more obvious than other times. Dr. Matsunaga, our temple founder, used to describe life in the middle way as like driving a car. You must stay in your lane, he said. Not too much to the left. Don't want to veer off. Not too much to the right. Just in the middle, but it's a dynamic middle. It's constantly changing. So it takes mindfulness, self-awareness to tune in to what is changing in you and how to adapt to staying in your lane. The classic example of the middle way was from the Buddha in the Sona Sutra, as Amanda had just read. The middle way quality of a guitar string, tuned just right. We always like to say that at the temple, because we're always going for middle way, but it's just right. Let's do our live middle way demo. And we're calling on our assistant priest, Will Fisher, to come He's coming down from the booth. He will come here and do a live demonstration. It'll be really fun. Hi, Will. Welcome. So, first, there is a sound of a string that is too loose. What does a too loose string sound like? Probably sounds pretty bad. But we'll see. Is it mic'd? Turn that mic. Oh.
The whole point is it's not
Yeah.
going to make sound.
It's not going to make sound.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't sound very good. I can hear it. You probably can hear it. Use your imagination. Can't really hear a too loose string. Yep. Poing. It doesn't sound good. And then, where does the too loose path lead us? Is this a good spiritual path when your path is too loose? No, probably not. And too tight. What about a string that is just too tight? Too tight represents rules and regulations as they pile on top of you, and maybe we're all experiencing a lot of too tightness lately with all the pandemic rules, and maybe have extra rules at work and all this stuff we have to be mindful of, and you just have to think about it all the time. So that could feel pretty tight. Are you going to strum it? Here's what too tight sounds like. Oh. Too tight eventually leads to something in us breaking. And it could be our hearts, our psyche. We could have a temper tantrum. We could throw something. We could break a guitar string. It's being stubborn. It's okay.
I think just even watching me go,
Yeah, it's too tight.
nobody feels good when they're like,
Right, right. So that pent up, too tight feeling, we have all felt that. Our heart clenches and you can't breathe, and it just feels really tight. So, but guitar strings that are in tune and we're following a middle way path mindfully could sound like this. Very nice. Could everybody hear that? Yeah. So it just feels natural and calming and beautiful and melodic and in tune. So those are all things that kind of flow together in life. But it just takes mindfulness and self-reflection to stay on that just right path. Great. Thank you, Will. Very, very much. So I want to talk about two aspects of the middle way while we're here today. The middle way of self-indulgence and self-denial, and the middle way between being self-centered and the big picture. When the Buddha first taught about the middle way, his insights into life were simple and profound. He saw that life is a bumpy road. We don't get through it without difficulties and challenges. The old word for this in Sanskrit is dukkha. Life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same from moment to moment. The old word for this in Sanskrit is anicca. Life is interdependent. We are all part of everything. We have effects and are affected by the universe. And life is fundamentally good. Joy and meaning are here, occasional bumps and all, and the word in Sanskrit for this is nirvana. The Buddha wants us to be as joyful as he is. This wish is an expression of the primal vow of Amida Buddha, the primal vow of great compassion. We can do that by living life in the present moment, following the middle way. So let's look at these middles a little more in depth. In our lives in America, it is easy to see that we have a pretty distorted view of what self-indulgence might be and what self-denial might look like. If we look at the world today, everybody is suffering the pandemic. But really, we experience it, we here, more like princes, because we can have Instacart shop for us, we can have Grubhub deliver our food for us. Most people in the world don't have these options. Lives have been lost here too, but most people in the world don't have access to health care that even the poorest in America have. I know it can be better, of course it can be better, but we have a distorted view of indulgence and denial. Indulgence comes easy for us. It's very easy to document. Look at the world comparison of individual credit card debt. Americans borrow about $5,000 each a year. Others in developed countries are more like $2,000 a year. If we want it, we tend to buy it, even if we don't have the money. This is indulgence. Where the wanting is vastly overdeveloped, or even more indicative of all the money borrowed in the world, the U.S. has borrowed 31% of it, and we make up 4% of the world's population. There is a measure of self-indulgence, and we are prone to it. We are largely unable to see it in ourselves. It has many unfortunate consequences. It can strain and stress your family, but real troubles come from self-denial. In the case of the Buddha during his quest for enlightenment, he tried to follow very extreme traditional ascetic practices for more than a year, and he nearly died from it. He had no clothes, no shelter, and almost no food. Just 1 grain of rice a month, as the story goes. If not for the compassion of the village girl Sujata, giving him a bowl of rice porridge, he would not have survived this self-denial. He would not be here, and we would not be here if he had not survived. Buddhism would not be here if he had not survived. Self-denial and self-hatred are unwholesome actions. In our modern world, it might seem that self-denial is not a problem. Self-indulgence is so very common. But there are many who harbor unkind feelings for themselves, strongly criticizing themselves and denying themselves the basic love that we would never deny others. Self-love is important. Appreciating our great gifts comes before we can really share them with others. Many people in our society harbor these unfortunate feelings towards themselves. It may begin as a harsh word internalized and grow into a life-threatening condition. Could be an eating disorder or suicidal thoughts. If you struggle with any form of these self-hatred problems, please promise me that you will seek out help. Even call the temple. We can help you. Under the conditioning of this distorted mind, we can think that denying ourselves is good or justified in some way. Some religious traditions put high value on the ability to deny the body its basic needs in seeking a higher plane of consciousness. Buddhism completely rejects this type of ascetic practice. Just as indulgence distorts the mind and blinds us to materialism, severe denial blinds us to a truly spiritual life. There is a middle way, the path we follow to give ourselves the nourishment we need, physically and spiritually, without overindulging. It is always more difficult to follow this path. We aren't sure if we are doing enough, or studying enough, or working hard enough, or if we're resting too much, or playing too much. Relaxing the I, me, my is the thing to do. With mindfulness, take a dispassionate view of your life and chart a course that feels like the dynamic middle to you, because it's really up to you, and everybody's different. The good counsel of someone you trust is needed for this reflection. Ask someone you respect and admire for advice in this. Otherwise, the distortions of self may cloud your view. The Buddha taught us to shine our own bright light on mindfulness, on our life, to choose our actions carefully. So we find the middle way between indulgence and self-denial. And there is a middle way between a self-centered life and the big picture view. I mentioned earlier that we were invited to a camp out in the desert, a desert hot springs, way out in eastern Nevada, as we escaped the smoke. We spent the night and we saw something amazing. As we laid there and I'm skipping ahead. As we spent the night, we saw something amazing. But first, during the day, we were surprised that even 3 hours drive east, the smoke was still trying to infiltrate. You could see a whitish kind of bubble. I don't have to explain this whitish bubble to you. We've all been living with it for the last 3 weeks or so. But if you can't, then you can't, this bubble represents our self-centered view. You feel like you're in a bubble. So you're kind of thinking about yourself a lot. And it's hard to see beyond it. Then in the evening, when Reverend Matthew and I and the 2 dogs sacked out in the back of his truck, we just looked up at the sky, and the sky was bright and clear. So beautiful. And you could easily see the Milky Way. Our little dog, Josie, was awake the whole night, sniffing the air, because she was interested in the wild burros. But being awake all night, we just looked up at the sky all night long, and it was just a wonderful experience of looking up at the expanse, really looking what represents, in that moment, the big picture. We are here on this little planet, circling an average star, one of 100,000 million other stars, on the arm of an unremarkable spiral galaxy. I wouldn't say I felt small as I lay there. I felt just part of it. I felt that all the disturbing stuff in 2020 that has just distressed our human world was so small and insignificant. In that part of everything view, things I could let go of, the small, distasteful things, and marvel at the wonder of it all. The vast cosmos really brings everything into perspective. It just opens you up. Get out of our small little smoke-filled bubble and open up. It's so vibrant, I could almost hear the light from all the stars. A splash of stars fills the Milky Way, but out of the galactic plane, most of those points of light are individual galaxies themselves, not stars. Millions and millions of galaxies, filled with many more millions of stars. some probably having planets in them with other Buddhist women looking up at the same stars. So that was a wonderful connection. I felt whole and part of everything, and it was really wonderful. And then we eventually did nod off, and then we saw the sunrise, which was also wonderful. When we woke up in the morning to a slightly more smoky day, constrained and held in the little bubble of limited world I could see, I did feel a little sad I had lost something. But that brings me back to the middle way of feeling. So much of the time we feel hemmed in by the smoke and the pandemic and the suffering of our world. But beyond that, just on the other side of this very thin veil, probably the veil of our delusions, that is our atmosphere. And it's the amazingly beautiful and vast expanse of everything else, everythingness. So I think in these times when we're feeling tight and hemmed in and stressed out, think of the everythingness, and you are part of that. You are a vital part of that. I can balance between those two views and find a middle way. The vastness is up there even during the day when I can't see the stars or the Milky Way. It is always there for us, and we're always part of it. It's a comfort and so very grounding at the same time. A balance between night and day can make life easier to live and make our problems seem small. This is a practical, immediate teaching we can apply right now. Please don't let this precious, unrepeatable life go by without hearing deeply the wonderful, joyful, vast universe that surrounds you. Listen to those stars, to those galaxies. We call this deep hearing in Japanese monpo. Monpo is deep hearing of the light of Amida Buddha, the wisdom and compassion of the universe that is everywhere if we can just get out of our little daytime I, me, my bubble, out of limited thoughts, and just see it. This is a core practice of the middle way. The middle way exists in the Nembutsu, saying Namu Amida Butsu. The practice is completely grounded in this present moment, grounded in now. The dynamic middle where we are fundamentally connected to all that is or all that will be. The great vow of Amida Buddha only acts in the now, to save all beings, no matter their nature, from loneliness and despair of self. That is the universal vow, the primal vow. The only act required is to sincerely and deeply call out right now, Namu Amida Butsu. Let's do that. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. The small bubble world of self sends out its call to the vastness of the infinite compassion of the universe, Amida Buddha, and is rescued, never to be let go. You are okay, just as you are, and we love you all. You are so, so dear to us. Thank you for your kind attention. Let's share a blessing with all beings everywhere. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Thank you so, so much. We will now have our temple song, Home in the Meadow, chosen especially by Reverend Alicia Matsunaga because it reminded her and Reverend Daigon Matsunaga of the Western Pure Land. And we're living right in the West. And we live in the Truckee Meadows. Home in the Meadow. Away, away, come away with me, where the grass grows wild and the winds blow free. Away, away, come away with me, and I'll build you a home in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. The stars, oh how bright and far, on a world of pure and eternal love. The stars, oh how bright they'll shine, on a home we will build in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. Nom-noms, nom-nom-noms. I just couldn't help myself. I had to sing it. Probably just broke a rule, but I don't care. So, some announcements. We're happy to meet with you outside if you have any questions about Buddhism or how RBC runs or how you can be more involved during this time. Most of our offerings are virtual on Zoom, but we have things most days of the week, and they're all open to everyone. Let's see, what else? We're hoping to have a pet blessing day this week. I was kind of holding off announcing it because of all the smoke, but it could be next Sunday, so I'll let you know. And it'll be outside, so we would love to see you with your little furry, fuzzy, feathery, reptile-y friends. If you would like to come have them blessed, they give us so much joy and so much unconditional love and compassion, especially these days. I've heard the Humane Society is practically empty because all of the dogs and cats have been adopted, which is wonderful. So we would love to see you there. I think that's all the announcements. Please be well. Please find your dynamic middle way. Go through that practice with a loved one, a trusted friend, and talk about it. You know, it could be very helpful. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon. Nam Mon Lops.